Good morning. Good morning. My name is Kirk Hansen. I'm Executive Director of the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics here at Santa Clara University, and we're one of the two co-sponsors of this dialogue with His Holiness the Dalai Lama this morning. The other co-sponsor is the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education at Stanford University. Santa Clara is very pleased to be able to provide a venue and a welcome to His Holiness and to all of you. I have a few announcements. The Dalai Lama and his entourage were about 15 minutes late departing this morning from the hotel, so I suspect that we'll be at least 15 minutes late beginning here, but we will have the normal length dialogue that we expected with the Dalai Lama. Thank you very much for coming, and I want to thank particularly, thank you for the purchase of the tickets. The way these events run is that we have to cover all of the costs of the day, the security, and everything else. And so we charge for the tickets in order to just cover the costs of the day. So thank you very much for making possible the visit of His Holiness to Santa Clara and to the South Bay. So we're very grateful to you for that. A few announcements. First of all, I believe the food court is still available if you want to still get something to eat. If you would please silence your cell phones for the entire morning. It's okay to have them on and vibrate. In fact, we have a new Wi-Fi setup for today, which the open access Wi-Fi connection is Dalai Lama SCU. So if you would like to connect in that way, you can. For those of you who are tweeting, the hashtag is Dalai Lama SCU. So please feel free to tweet. The restrooms, as you may have discovered, men's rooms on this side, women's rooms on this side, but you cannot cross back behind the stage for security reasons. And so if you're a man on this side, you have to come all the way around, or a woman on this side, you have to come around. So that's the arrangement on restrooms. After the event, if you would please depart by the same door that you came in. The diplomatic security service, which is running today's event from a security standpoint, will be maintaining the same protected areas throughout the day because the Dalai Lama will continue to be here over the next few hours. So if you would please exit by the same doors that you came in. So I will come back again in about 10 or 15 minutes and give you an update. There are small meetings. The Dalai Lama is meeting, planning some future events with small groups and meeting with a group of interfaith leaders from Santa Clara University. Those brief meetings are going on right now, and he will be coming over immediately at the conclusion of those. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for making this event possible here at Santa Clara.
Right here. Yeah. Right here. Okay? Okay. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll sit here.
Hello, good morning. Sit down. Yes, I'll be. So you're here, should I be there or here?
Doesn't really matter. No, they did.
Okay.
Det gælder hele godt. Sit. Sit. Oh, very strong light.
Maybe I should go up.
Oh,
Santa Clara.
very good.
Yeah, sure.
Good morning. I'm Michael Lang, the president of Santa Clara University, and welcome to our university and our program this morning, Business, Ethics, and Compassion with the Dalai Lama. We're profoundly honored to have His Holiness with us this morning. The 14th Dalai Lama is the spiritual leader of Tibet and a Nobel Peace Prize recipient. In 2006, he received the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honor in the United States. He was awarded the medal for his advocacy of nonviolence, human rights, and religious understanding. Santa Clara University is an institution that is dedicated to the issues of ethics and social justice, where they intersect with the issues of corporate responsibility and high-tech entrepreneurship. Our event is co-sponsored by Santa Clara's Markkula Center for Applied Ethics and Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education. We're also fortunate to have Lloyd Dean with us today. Mr. Dean is the CEO of Dignity Health, the fifth largest healthcare company in the United States. Dignity Health is a pioneer in compassion-centered healthcare with their initiative, Hello Human Kindness. To facilitate this morning's event, let me introduce Dr. James R. Doty. Dr. Doty is the founder and the director of Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education, of which His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, is the founding benefactor. Mr. Doty collaborates with scientists from a number of disciplines in examining the neural bases of compassion and altruism. He is also a professor of neurosurgery at Stanford University's School of Medicine. Dr. Doty, please. Welcome. Thank you.
How is everyone? Come on! Yeah! Yeah! Oh, I have to hold these up. These aren't good anymore. It's an honor to be with you today on the beautiful campus of Santa Clara University. This organizing event, as Father Ng has said, is been a partnership between Santa Clara University's Markkula Center of Applied Ethics and CCARE, which is what we call our Compassion Center at Stanford. I would like to thank Father Ng, Kirk Hansen, director of the Markkula Center, Jim Lyons, and the entire team who have made this event possible. Thank you so much. Without their extraordinary efforts, this event would not be possible. It's interesting for me to be here, being from Stanford today. If you recall, in 1963, John F. Kennedy was in West Berlin after the building of the Berlin Wall, and he said, Ich bin ein Berliner. Well, today I'm going to say, Ich bin ein Santa Clarian, or for all of you, Broncos. How many of you have seen The Sound of Music? What an inspiring story. Last week, the last member of the Von Trapp family died, and it reminded me of a quote that Maria Von Trapp said, which is, "Music acts like a magic key to which the most tightly closed heart opens." In that vein today, on stage, we have a group of students from Living Wisdom School in Palo Alto. with many of their fellow classmates in the audience. Practice kindness and choose happiness are Living Wisdom's most important rules. His Holiness has served as an inspiration to all of us to practice these rules. And today the children will perform a brief medley of songs led by the school director, Helen Purcell, and her wonderful staff. And they give a small token of to His Holiness for the inspiration that he has brought not only to them, but to the world. Children.
I want to see their face. Beautiful, wonderful, very fresh. Thank you. Thank you.
Your Holiness, we have a gift for you.
These were made by the children.
Oh.
Let's go ahead and share. Share with
So I think you two come here, come here.
So he's inviting you to.
Together.
Go ahead, friends.
We also some cooperation here.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, we'll hold the mic.
Oh, I see. Sebastian, come on this side.
Am I holding it? Oh, oops.
I no, I did this way. This way.
Okay, right way? Yeah.
Ah.
Yes, yeah. Okay, we got it. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Your Holiness, I'm the director of the school, and we wanted to offer this to you.
Oh.
It's a little film called Finding Happiness, and we thought that you would enjoy it. It has in it an explanation of our school philosophy, because we love you. We did a play on you, and the children all know about you.
Thank you, children.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Your Holiness.
Before we begin the formal program, I would like to formally thank some of the co-sponsors, Steve Luzow, who's unfortunately not able to be with us today, Chad Ming Tan, who is with us today, the Dalai Lama Foundation, and the Dalai Lama Center for Ethics and Transformative Values at MIT. Compassion can do extraordinary things to improve the lives of individuals. Science has shown this to be the case for both the giver and the receiver. Unfortunately, the lack of compassion can be devastating. In the business world, for many, this translates into stress and anxiety and comes at a huge cost in terms of lost days from work, increased healthcare costs, and decreased productivity. In the US, it's estimated that stress and anxiety and depression cost $200 to $300 billion yearly. Yet we know that based on a number of scientific studies, that when individuals work in an environment that is felt to be compassionate, this is when they function at their best and are most creative. Some feel that the obligation of business is to maximally extract the most from every worker, believing that workers are an easily replaceable commodity. We are unique in Silicon Valley in that the top engineering talent is probably our greatest asset and is not easily replaceable. And thus we see companies who bend over backwards to offer what they perceive as every benefit, free food, shuttles, a variety of other services. Yet, what is the greatest expenditure in healthcare costs for these companies? It remains stress, anxiety, and depression. Healthcare is a business in the United States, a huge business now consuming almost 20% of our gross domestic product. It is the most costly care in the industrialized world with the lowest rate of patient satisfaction. It also scores in the lowest quadrant in metrics regarding healthcare outcomes in the industrialized world and remains the most expensive. Until the recent passage of the Affordable Care Act, we were the only one of 10 industrialized countries in the world that did not offer universal health care to its citizens and relieve the burden of the 40 million who did not have health insurance. I spoke of the epidemic of depression, stress, and anxiety in the workplace. This plays itself out in the hospital workplace as well. In fact, the hospital environment in the U.S. by percentage of employees affected have some of the highest levels of stress and anxiety among its workers, including physicians and nurses, many of whom are deeply dissatisfied by the reality that medicine for them has become a business, it seems. In terms of patient outcomes, in terms of patients, outcomes are affected by this reality, and many are dissatisfied with their care. What are the ethical obligations of business to its employees? What is the solution to the epidemic of depression, stress, and anxiety? Is there a different approach to the business of business and the business of healthcare that will translate into a happier and more productive workforce, and in the context of healthcare, better outcomes for the patient? Today, we have two individuals, extraordinary in their own ways, who will be sharing their experience and insights. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, who for over 3 decades has traveled the world to educate us on the importance of compassion and caring. But what many of you may not know about His Holiness is that he has been at the forefront of the scientific research, the neuroscience research related to the effects of meditation on the brain and the effects of compassion on the brain. And this has stimulated a revolution in science, and we are starting to see the reality that being compassionate increases one's health, increases one's well-being, and increases one's longevity. Today, he will share his insights into the importance of compassion in all areas of life, and especially in regard to the workplace, where many of us spend the majority of our waking hours. Our second speaker, Lloyd Dean, arose from humble beginnings to head one of the largest healthcare chains in the United States. He has transformed Dignity Health from losing $1 million a day for the 3 years prior to his becoming CEO, from what was then known as Catholic Healthcare West, to one of the most fiscally sound healthcare companies in the United States, while maintaining its original mission to serve the poor and the sick. He continues to transform the company and the healthcare industry, focusing on what Francis Peabody said in 1927, which is that the secret of care of the patient is caring for the patient. The tagline for this initiative is called Human Kindness, demonstrating what the scientific literature has shown, which is that human connection helps us heal. Today, he will share his insights regarding the business of medicine, our ethical obligations to our fellow humans, and his personal insights into how to make the business of medicine more human. We will begin with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. Thank you.
Respected elder brothers and sisters, and younger brothers and sisters, indeed, I'm very, very happy having this opportunity, sit together and talk. And among the few Tibetans here, this is somehow long time, my friend. Timare, Timare, Izang, Shinji Mare. Oh, Guru, Shinji. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Then, wherever I go, I always talk how to become happy individual, happy family, happy society or community. Then finally, the 7 billion human beings. Actually, everyone have the right to be happy person. But we generally, I think, too much emphasis about material value. I think neglect about our inner value. I think that is the reason, a lot of trouble, a lot of unhappy person, in spite materially quite successful, but as a human being, unhappy person. That's been noticed. So now here, I want to say beginning, those small children, the beautifully sang. When I saw these young children, automatically reflect my own childhood. So my family, not wealthy or influential, but simply ordinary farmer. I think in my family is the real sort of luxury, richness. Richness is my mother's affection. Because of my mother's sort of affection, in our home, full of joy. I often used to telling people, when I was there, I'm youngest, her child. So naturally, mother take more care about youngest. So as a boy in farmland, very remote land, no other facility, play all these things. But my mother used to carry me on her shoulder, and while she working in farms or looking after animals like that. So I really used to enjoy when my mother used to carry me and then go here and there. Yeah. Then eventually, I try to control my mother's movement, hold my mother's 2 ears. If I want to go this side, go like that. This side, go like that. If my mother don't follow my wish, then shout, go like that. So, I think fortunately, all my brothers, sisters, I think we never saw our mother's angry face. Really wonderful, really wonderful. So I feel now, I always feel, that's the real sort of blessing. I grew up with that sort of blessing from my mother. So certainly later, of course, training about the value of compassion, a combination with human intelligence. So that immense help. But real original seed is to come from my mother. So then here is everybody in the hall, and further look, 7 billion human beings, all is to come from their own mother. All received maximum affection from their mother, from their parent. So these young children, at young age, real, the value of affection is very, very strong, very fresh. Now the question, why 7 billion human beings come from their mother and nurtured by mother's milk, then grown up with mother's affection or parents' affection? Then why? There are many people never bother about these inner value, but rather also they just because of the human intelligence, and then sometimes intelligence with self-centered attitude and materialistic life. So then these sort of unhappy people happen. And then also not only unhappy individually, but really creates a lot of problems. And don't care about others' right, and manipulate others' right, and use or exploit others. So a lot of unhealthy sort of things among the humanity, not only in the past human history, but even today, happen. So now, that situation is truly now helpless or
If there is nothing one can do about it?
No. Basic human nature is more gentleness. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we all equipped affection. And after all, we are social animals. So biologically, there is strong sort of tendency in our emotion, something which bring together. So individual survival depend on rest of the community. So cooperation, as this
In the lyrics of one of the songs, talked about cooperation.
By nature, as a social animal, you see, we really need that. So full of hatred, full of suspicion, distrust, how can develop genuine cooperation? So all these, so therefore, basically we equipped the seed of compassion. Now the problem, at the young age, these are very, very fresh, very alive. But then grown up, neglecting these things. So in materialistic way of life, then these are not necessarily very direct sort of link.
Relevance.
So therefore, we need special effort to educate people, to remind people the affectionate feeling or attitude is whole rest of life is something very important. With that strong feeling, and then every human activities can be more compassionate action, no matter what field. Now, for example, economy. Economy development, meantime creates corruptions or gap rich and poor, exploitations. These are clearly show lack of affection, lack of respect to others' right, lack of awareness about others' feeling. Any other sort of human activities, even warfare, carried with human affection, the damage will be limited. So therefore, warm-heartedness or affectionate sort of mental attitude is something very, very important if we want 7 billion human beings on this planet, more happier one. We need that. And also environment issue. Just self-centered attitude and materialistic thinking. Then no bother about the environment. Individual environment not directly, immediately affect. But when we think in the terms of 7 billion human beings, then ecology is so important. And other animals. Now some cases which is overfishing, some now fish. The number disappears. Terrible. So we have no sort of sense of respect to lives. So therefore, now, main thing, I believe, through education, through kindergarten up to university level, we must include teaching of compassion or teaching of warm-heartedness. Not simply, you see, the love, compassion is something holy or something important, precious. Not that way. It is something very relevant in order to become happy human being, happy family. Now, health also, now very much needed, as you briefly mentioned, health also. Now, medical scientists now really found through their research and experiment, more compassionate mind automatically develop calm mind. Because compassionate mind creates self-confidence and inner strength. So that brings more calm mind. That extremely helpful for maintain healthy body. With inner strength, more compassionate, less anxiety, less stress, no matter what busy work, but will not create much of
Disturbance.
Or say tense.
Stress.
Stress. If you think more self-centered attitude, then more anxiety, more stress. Then this automatically creates hypocritical way, saying something nice, doing something different. That destroys trust from other. Without trust, how can develop genuine friendship? And you yourself will not be happy, ultimately, in deep inside, lonely feeling. You can't trust in this, can't trust in this. And you carry your life more hypocritical way. Then in deep inside, much anxiety. Anxiety brings anger. Anger destroys our health and friendly atmosphere in our home. So you see, thinking deeper way, then the compassion is something very, very important. Every human activity is carried with compassion, then become more human way and constructive, beneficial. I think we, in human sort of history, the medical, as they say, usually you see, taking care about others' life, others' well-being. I think modernized medical care, then, as you mentioned, business. One time I heard some of my friends told me some financial field is a construction of prison. Right? So, a lot of construction of prison. So, need prisoner. Strange. And I think only business way, we need more sick people. then more opportunity make money, isn't it? So these things really only think about money. Then also, I think if you think only money, then those military factory, you see, use more bullet, more production, more weapon, or selling weapons in different parts of the world. Really terrible. So, in business field, certainly moral ethics are very important role. Then, of course, health or education in every field. But then, I think basically, compassion brings mental peace, mental comfort. Economy, material bring us physical comfort. Since we have this mind and physical, we need both. If we only think, only talk compassion without thinking material development, then that's unrealistic, not practical.
Yeah.
We need, now today, out of 7 billion, a lot of people under poverty.
Poverty.
Really terrible. In big cities, particularly in Asia, a lot of homeless people, street children, same human being. I think there is not sufficient resources to take care of these, but quite often, you see, just because of
Ignored.
ignored. The other day in Delhi, I think 2-3 months ago, one day I passing through, I was in the car, a lot of people coming and going. One girl, this is some handicapped,
Cannot walk properly.
cannot properly.
With 2 sticks, she was walking.
Then her eye, I noticed much of her sunk.
With sunken eyes.
Clear sort of, because of the indication of hopelessness. A lot of people coming and going, nobody pay attention about that. I really feel very sad. So, we really need educate about sense of concern of others' well-being. So this is for one's own sort of happy, because of that, concern about one's own happiness. More taking care about others' well-being. Give more happiness to others. You get maximum sort of happiness. Forget others' well-being. Think oneself. Result, you suffer more. So that way we can teach people. Since many years I express we are selfish, but be wise selfish rather than foolish, short-sighted selfish. So these things really is depend on education. So that's my view. Thank you. Now some furthermore. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me begin by saying good morning to all of you. Today is truly, truly one of the greatest days of my life. To have this opportunity to be on this stage with His Holiness is a dream come true. And I am so honored and so thankful and want to thank His Holiness for his wisdom and for his inspiration to all of us. I will tell you, when I got the invitation for this wonderful event, I asked the person, I said, where is it going to be held? And he said, it's going to be, you know, where the Broncos play. I said, but I love the 49ers. And they said, no. You're going to be fine because it's going to be in Santa Clara at this wonderful, wonderful institution. And you will be very close, not only to the Broncos, but to your San Francisco 49ers. So I am happy to be here. You know, one of the great things that we all have is friends. And I was so excited about this opportunity, I called one of my friends and I said, you aren't going to believe this. I am going to be on stage with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And like a true friend, I thought this individual would be happy for me, would be excited. He said, uh-oh. He said, who's going to speak first? I said, His Holiness is going to speak first. And he said, uh-oh, you're in deeper trouble than I thought. Because have you ever heard him speak? And I said, yes. And he said, there is nothing that you can say that will be on par to his wisdom and to his words. But I am thrilled to be here. And I can tell you that I am going to be brief with my comments. But I thought it would be relevant to highlight my organization, Dignity Health, as one example, and only as one example of an organization that is trying to build a culture of compassion for those that we are privileged to serve and for our employees. In some ways, all of the folks here who are associated with organizations and businesses are very much the same. But in a few ways, we are different. Dignity Health is a nonprofit healthcare provider. Our roots as an organization go back more than a century, when 8 sisters of mercy arrived in San Francisco to care for the sick. They were not concerned about money. They were not concerned about the complexities of running a large business. They were concerned about providing health care to the poor and to the underserved. In those 8 sisters, the Sisters of Mercy, and now Dignity Health is sponsored by 7 orders of religious women, still today have the same mission that they did back a century ago. And that was to do everything humanly possible to heal the mind, the body, and the spirit. It was their faith that inspired them to do so. But to do that, they deployed kindness and love. In fact, some of the threads of our Catholic heritage and social teachings are very closely related to Buddhist thought, particularly around the encouragement of healing human beings from the inside out, as well as treating people with dignity and with respect. So compassion isn't just a business strategy. It is at the core of who we are. And for each of you, compassion and kindness should be a key element of your business or your enterprise. Now, all of us in business face similar challenges, as we do. We are confronted with difficult decisions every day. Those decisions may be operational, those decisions may be financial. All of us, we operate at a time of tremendous change within our society, within our world, and within our various business sectors. And we are all being asked to do more, but with less. Our employees are working long and treacherous hours. They are working in environments that is demanding constant change and constant movement. But within all of that, there is one common element. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, that we are all human beings. I believe, and His Holiness has said many times, that within us holds the potential for limitless compassion and kindness and love. It is not always easy in the hustle and bustle of the lives that we live to remember that and to bring those values to the surface of what we do each and every day. So it is one thing for all of us to hold hands and to agree on the importance of kindness and compassion as a guiding value, but it is through our acts, through our decisions that we make, where the truth really comes forward. So the question is, how do we bring this truth, this kindness, this humanity to life? How do we build, as His Holiness has called for, a culture of compassion? I will acknowledge that this work is difficult and it's ongoing. None of us are perfect, certainly not myself. So there's a lot of trial and a lot of error. But there are a few broad principles we try to follow that I think may and hope will resonate with you, your companies, and your organization. The first principle has to do with how we make big, important decisions. We have a process that we call our values-based decision-making process. What that means is that we must hear and we must listen to the people who are going to be impacted and affected by these decisions that we make. And we must carefully weigh how will our employees, how will our patient, how will our communities be impacted by our decisions. An example, we have a hospital in Southern California, in the Los Angeles area. And today, that hospital continues to lose money. It is a very difficult community, even though it is going through a transition. But it is a community that serves the poorest and the most vulnerable within the LA basin. We are not there because it makes money. We are there to fill a need. If we were to close, or if we were to leave that hospital, that community, patients would have to go to other communities for their services if they would be served. So, in many situations, if not us, then who? The second principle has to do with encouraging not so random acts of kindness. We have something that we call no one dies alone. And what that means is that we are committed to ensuring that for every patient who faces that juncture in life, that there is another human being there by their side, touching them and giving them the love that they can. The third principle, I believe, applies to every business in this country. And I believe that demonstrating kindness and demonstrating humanities to communities is an obligation. It is not a nicety. We are called to do that as corporate citizens. We must also be good stewards of our environment. I am deeply troubled every day when I turn on the news and I look at the weather. Our world is upside down. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not by accident. So we must focus on not just what we do, but how we do it. And if we do that, I think we have the highest probability of doing what is right, what is moral, and what is ethical. I want to end on two quick stories. The first came from my own experience. As was said in the introduction, I grew up in a family of 9 kids. My father worked in a factory on and off, and I think all the way through junior high. We were on public assistance, we were on welfare. And in my community, there was not one health services. Nothing. No community-based services, nothing. I watched my grandfather die at an early age from something to, if he was living today, he would live a long and prosperous life. I watched my grandmother die from a disease that with immunization, she would have lived a more longer and fruitful life. So every day, my friends and their parents, looking at them, I witnessed the toll that the lack of compassionate health care can have on communities and individuals. So I said to myself in a prayer that if I ever have the opportunity to be in a position within a healthcare organization, and I have that opportunity with what I think is one of the most wonderful organizations providing health care, I was not going to let those that I could help die early because of a lack of health care, because of where they live, for no other reasons. Let me end with this. One of our housekeepers went into a room. We now call them environmental service workers, but for sake of our discussion, housekeepers. And when she went into the room to clean the room, she saw this wonderful woman laying there, and she started talking to her about her situation. And the lady said that I am here because I just had surgery from breast cancer. And the housekeeper immediately said, and connected, and said, I also had surgery from breast cancer. And they talked and shared their experiences. And this housekeeper took the time to touch her, to listen, and to be kind, and to be compassionate. Later, the patient did very well. And when she got home, she sent us a letter back. And she said the following: I want you to know the clinical care was excellent, but it was your housekeeper who saved my life. She gave me hope. So that is why I stand here today. I don't believe that compassion and kindness is a extra. I believe that it is a right and a calling that we must answer. And every business should have as its principle how in what we do will it impact our community, individuals, and are we doing the right thing on this quest to reach our other obligations. Compassion and kindness, ladies and gentlemen, costs very, very little, but yields endless returns. And we must seize this moment. Together, we can unleash a force of positive change that our world and our society so desperately needs. May God bless you, and thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a seat, and then we're going to have
Okay. Thank you. Right here?
no, why don't you
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Your Holiness.
Yes.
You heard Lloyd talk about his own background of suffering, which in many ways has defined his actions as a business leader and his actions and interactions towards and with others. Sometimes individuals grow up in very affluent backgrounds where they do not have a need, and oftentimes this imbues them with a sense that they deserve everything or they don't appreciate what they've been given. Sometimes they lack gratitude. How can individuals who sometimes don't see the suffering of others, and we've seen scientific evidence that in fact demonstrates that oftentimes individuals of higher socioeconomic classes don't appreciate the suffering of those around them.
I think sometimes, you see, I think President Assad, Syrian president, I think he needs some compassion. But if you meet him, how can teach him compassion? I think it's difficult. So these things,
It's very difficult to come up with something that you can just use it right at the moment, at that very moment.
Like I think physical health. You see the
Basic.
basic.
So for example, in the case of physical health, it's a gradual development that creates a physical constitution.
So similarly, these mental sort of also this quality, also through training, person who never sort of pay attention about these, then all of a sudden it's difficult to give them some kind of conviction. I don't know. Unless you see they sort of
Unless they have some immediate misfortune that experience.
then perhaps someone you see showing empathy or concern, then he or she may then realize affection.
Appreciate the value.
I don't know. So that's why you see, we need systematic sort of plan to educate people. I believe this is just the beginning of the 21st century. So if we plan properly and implement, then mid part of the 21st century could be more compassionate society. Could be. That's the only way. We have to think. We have to sort of make effort. Now, fortunately, now many places, the word compassion now become more and more significant. That itself, I think, one sort of
Positive sign.
positive sign, a sign of hope. So now, I think various fields, various profession field, you see, more research and more effort. I think 20 years ago, I think very few people, you see, talking about this value of compassion, these things. Now, including scientists, you see, talking. Religious people, of course, 1,000 years talk or practice love, forgiveness, tolerance, these things. But it remained a little bit sort of limited. Now the problem, humanity's problem. So humanity, out of 7 billion, today's population, out of 7 billion, over 1 billion actually non-believer. So you say we need, besides religious training, or
No.
we need some way of approach which can include all those non-believers. So I call, according Indian tradition, the secular. Secular in the West, they have the sort of impression, secularism and the atheism, some sort of
Similar.
some connection. But according Indian understanding, the secular means respect all religions, appreciate all religions, then also you should respect non-believer. So that's why the modern India's constitution is based on secularism. Not at all some kind of negative towards religions, but respect all religions. I think so we can, I think we need, I feel, the approach towards humanity to promote compassion or moral ethics through secular way, then I feel that is more universal. So in any way, some scientists and also some educationists now are already sort of working. And in this country, so some organization really is implementing the promotion of secular ethics through secular way. Like that.
Lloyd,
Your response now.
Yes. Before I respond, I just want to say, His Holiness, would you be willing? I think it's so cool having an interpreter. Could I borrow your interpreter for about 6 months? Because he's very good. I like him.
Good.
I like him. I need an interpreter. But, to the question, I would say the following. Back some months ago, we commissioned a study. And that was a study of a number of people from all socioeconomic stratas, rich and poor, all ethnic diversities. And here's what the study told us. And I think it's very relevant to your question. That without regard to one's social economic status, we asked the people the question, when you think about your healthcare experience, what is it that is missing? And in unison, they said, it is kindness and compassion in me being treated not as a number, but as a person and a human being. And that I would like for my healthcare professional to look me in the eye and address me by my name, not patient Dean in 309. So regardless of ethnicity, regardless of economic position, we are all humans and we all want the same thing. We want to be treated with dignity, we want to be treated with respect, and we want to be acknowledged that we are here in the presence. So I think every organization, in every company, and regardless of the walk of life that we all come from, we can do that. We can do that. Is that too much to ask? That we treat you different than we as human beings would like to be treated?
My own experience, of course, you see, some occasion I was hospitalized. Right. Then doctors, nurses approach to me with smile, with some kind of sincere sort of expression, and I feel safe. Sometimes, you see, the nurses, you see, carry some instrument, no smile, no sort of showing any sort of human affection. Then sometimes sort of getting feeling, oh, this person may carry some experiment on my physical. So, you see, doctor may be very, very professional, great expert. But here now is a Tibetan saying. You see, I used to heard this when I was young in Tibet, in Lhasa. So people used to say, oh, such physician, very good sort of profession, but heart not that much good. So his medicine not very helpful.
Effective.
So such doctor, profession may not be very high, but very warm-hearted. So his medicine more effective. So we are living beings. I think the trees or flowers, I think, some people say even flowers, you see, showing more sort of positive word, flower grow better. Or scold the flower also is a little bit, that I don't know. But we are living. So the feeling is very, very important. So compassion provides them enthusiasm, will. So as far as illness is concerned, most of us the willingness or inner sort of the strength, the patient side, then recover much faster. And in order to develop that, the doctors, nurses must provide the patient is kind or some kind of encouragement. Clear?
You know, and I would just say I've had the opportunity to read some of His Holiness comments about the power of a smile, and he was just commenting on when he has been in the presence of a doctor and a nurse, that if they're not smiling, he gets worried.
And also, you just smile. Also, there are different kind of smile.
Yeah.
Some
Yes.
some sarcastic smile.
Yes.
Some diplomatic smile.
Yes.
So these sometimes, instead of feeling happy, sometimes develop more suspicion.
Yes.
So
Yes.
genuine human smile, that's really wonderful.
No, and I agree, because you reminded me, I was thinking, and all the males in this audience know, that once you get 50, there's an exam that you get once a year. And when they put on that glove and they're smiling, that's problematic. That is a serious, serious situation. So I agree with you. That's not the time we want to smile. That's right.
I'm not sure where to take it from there.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yes, yes. He said that was an excellent example.
Where were we? One of the things, okay. One of the things I had, one of the things I had mentioned earlier was the fact that here in Silicon Valley, we have this incredible engineering talent, yet, and these incredibly profitable companies who try, I think they feel, to give employees these incredible benefits. But what happens, I think, sometimes is that by giving them benefits, maybe it's not compassion they're giving them, but creating a situation where they work even harder, thinking that by giving these types of benefits, it somehow benefits them. We see a situation where we continue to have extraordinary levels of depression, anxiety, and stress within some of our most well-known companies in the world at this point, of which have originated in Silicon Valley. What do you feel that could best be done to alleviate these types of stresses that are so prevalent in the workplace and actually are so injurious to our long-term health?
I think you can give, I think, better answer. I don't know. I have not much experience these things. I think you know better.
I'll answer.
Put the pressure on the old Lloyd here. I would say the following, and I know and have friends that work at a number of the companies that you are referencing, and I would say that they are great companies, but the question that you raise is relevant and one that I think needs to be explored. Many of the benefits that these new up-and-coming companies are giving, I think, are good. The fact that people are getting child care facilities placed upon their campuses, I think that's a good thing. The fact that people can exercise and that these campuses are being built not only environmentally friendly, but built in a way that people have to walk, and these kinds of things are encouraged. I think where the damage happens and where I think your question is rightly focused is that when the benefits are really, it's the intention that goes with it. If the benefits are so that people never leave work and work 16 hours a day, whether you're giving me a free dinner or a free lunch becomes irrelevant because you are helping me increase stress and not have a good quality of life. So I think that it's really, Jim, about intent, purpose, because you're right. You look at some of the statistics, it says that some of those companies have higher prescriptions of Xanax and higher stress levels, and even some of the young employees are experiencing all kinds of traumatic, if you will, symptoms that are clearly induced by the work environment. So I think there's a delicate balance there between good intent and appropriate benefits, but I think we have to be very, very cautious that it is not being driven by a profit motive behind that, and that there is a goodness and there is a objective of having a balance. Yes, we want people to work hard, and God knows in healthcare our people, our nurses, all of our professionals and clinicians, and all of our employees work very hard. They work very long hours. They're in very stressful situations. But for me to give someone that's working a 12-hour shift a dinner and then ask him to work 18 hours, I think is in conflict with our values, and that issue of the whole person, the mind, the body, I think begins to be compromised.
Your Holiness, one of the students, and we had students submit questions, it in some ways related to this in that they wanted to work at a prominent company, and but at the same time, they were concerned that it may compromise their values. Do you have any advice for young people who, on the one hand, want to be what maybe their parents describe as successful, but are very concerned about the cost it may have for them? And what advice would you give them in terms of making a career decision?
That's difficult to say. Difficult to say. I got this sort of impression. Modern sort of society, the lifestyle, and basically materialistic sort of the lifestyle, and through, I think, including through education, existing education, some kind of materialistic culture. So something like a big mission, you are part of the mission. So that unless gradually some sort of a change, the whole sort of mission, individual, whether individual accept or happy or not, have to go according to that big mission. That's my view. But then, you say how to, change this, again, not easy. So only hope is through education and also family value, gradually, I think, whole generation, little bit because of the different thinking, not only materialistic sort of, because of the values, but some other values. Then businessmen, or business people, politicians, or administrators, the various sort of field who come from that kind of sort of education, that kind of sort of the cultural environment. Then I think some real change. Otherwise, is the idea good, system good, but the individual who carry this, then very difficult. I think with the 20th century, I think different ideas, different sort of the system, original motivation may be good, but then person who involved that, not sort of morally ethical, then quite often. Of course, my knowledge very, very, very limited, but look, those socialist country, the idea, for example, Marxist economy, very much concerned about equal distribution. Idea good, but people, now look in China, suppose socialist country, huge gap, rich and poor, a lot of corruptions. Difficult. And India also, very religious-minded nation, but a lot of corruptions. And everywhere, I think everywhere.
And I would just respond to that young man or young lady with this. My experience has taught me that if you don't believe in what you're doing, and if you are not passionate about what you're doing, and if every night you go home questioning the morals and the ethics of what you're doing. My mother had a phrase, and I think it's relevant here. She said, "What is done in the dark will eventually come to the light." And what that means is that eventually that job or that opportunity is going to wear and you will become frustrated. And while it may be answer an economic question, it will create personal angst for you. You know, I have 2 kids, and one of them is here today, and I have to be honest with you, I was pretty thrilled when they got a job after college. As a matter of fact, I was ecstatic when they got a job. But as a parent, I would not want my children to be doing something that ethically and morally they felt they were being forced to do, when within their value construct, they felt it was wrong. And I think that applies all around the world if we have a choice.
Thank you. We are running out of time, and I told Father Ng that I would give him a question since he's been so patient sitting there. So the question is, what advice do you have for your students regarding the decisions they're going to make about their future?
And that's close to the question that I was going to ask His Holiness, because so many young people are trying to find their way in what they believe. They're not sure what they believe, what paths they should follow. And we've taught here at Santa Clara, we teach our students to be people of competence and conscience and compassion. So many want to be compassionate and they want to follow conscience, but they're looking for that in their life, that ideal that will guide them. I was wondering what advice you would give them in terms of discerning that belief to follow. Where do they look for that? Where do they find that belief that they can follow in life?
I usually feel as I mentioned earlier, too much self-centered any action, too much self-centered attitude, actually harmful to one's own interest. So these human intelligence telling us, you remain honest, truthful, you will be successful. So,
one important factor is how to be able to use your own personal discernment, capacity for discernment.
So then, for your own interest, it is better if there's possibility to help other, serve other, at least if not, restrain harming other. So then, your sort of activities can be honest, truthful, more compassionate.
Honest, truthful.
So that must sort of come through awareness, the value of these things, not some kind of cause of that. I think, frankly speaking, we religious people, it is sometimes something like compulsory to practice love and forgiveness. Not much sort of the real conviction. So therefore, among the religious people, also corrupted people there. So deep inside, not fully developed conviction about this value. So these not easily come through faith. Love God. As a Buddhist, love Buddha. but real firm conviction about his teaching, something really beneficial, short term, long term, real conviction there, then person sincerely implement these. Without a conviction, then sometimes. So you see, recently I was in Mexico. One
Theological seminar.
theological sort of, college, and also some. They invited me some talk. Then I just express. Sometimes we religious people, our faith on our dress. So long you dress that, you look more religious person, holy person. When you are dressed, decide then no longer holy. So your sort of faith must insight. So must be part of your life or your thinking. That come only through awareness, firm conviction, through reasoning. So awareness, rather, intelligence sometimes big issues.
So awareness based, awareness drawn from the application of discernment really is a key factor.
Thank you.
On that note, we have run out of time. I want to thank Your Holiness, Lloyd Dean, Father Ng, and of course, Jen Pa, and each of you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Our tradition.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Was that okay?
Oh, you were
Thank you.
perfect.
So, thank you. Oh, thank you. Hello. Yes.
I would just like to acknowledge the Dalai Lama Fellows and Marty Krasny, and they're right there. Your Holiness.
Yeah. Can you?
There they are.
That one?
Well, thank you.
Please. Thank you.